If someone is stuck in their head, call it the analytical mind, thinking, criticizing, judging, assessing, worrying, I guess, they're analytical about a situation, right and wrong. What is that doing to their body if their mind is always analytical?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with the analytical mind. I really love my analytical mind. I think you do too, because what the analytical mind is for is to weigh knowns against unknowns.
Strategizing.
Yeah, to kind of just go, okay, I know this, I want this. How am I going to go from wanting this to having this, right? And the analytical mind tries
possibilities.
To figure things out. And I think it's good. It helps us to navigate in our world, right?
When does the analytical mind get in our way?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you get stressed out, when you get anxious, when you get fearful, when you get angry, when you get agitated, when you get frustrated, when you feel pain, suffering, guilt, those kind of limited emotions start to drive the analytical mind to overanalyze and to overthink. And what we've discovered by looking at enough brains in action in real time, that when we analyze our life within some disturbing emotion, we make our brains worse. Because the emotion is a record of the past. So you're thinking in the past, you're thinking in the box, there's no solution there. So every time you start thinking and overanalyzing, you're producing the chemistry to arouse your brain and body even more, and now you're in a loop, right? And that's kind of ruminating, or whatever you want to call that, obsessing, over-focusing. We tend to narrow our focus on something. Like when we're under stress, it's really important to put all of your attention on the cause, right? Because you got to be able to deal with it. But a lot of times those causes are fictitious, right? And so now we're over-focusing our attention on something, and the act of over-focusing our attention drives our brain further out of balance, right? We start revving it up into more aroused states. The answer will never be there because that person's thinking in the known. They're thinking in the box. If they say, okay, for the next 5 days, I'm just going to follow the instructions, I'm just going to change. And they stop. Our data shows that you can shut this thing off. We know how to do it so well. You can do it so well that you can do it with your eyes open. In other words, the critic in your mind that's saying it'll never happen, it's too hard, start tomorrow, all that stuff, that voice is gone. Not only during the meditation, but when the person opens their eyes after a 7-day event, their brain is still in that present moment state, right? It's not trying to predict anything. It's called the default mode network in the brain. And the paper that you were talking about that we're super excited about, it was published in a Nature journal. It was communications biology. It's been super, super popular, amongst the scientific community, because we did fMRI studies on advanced meditators and novice meditators.
Is this the UC San Diego study or a different one?
Yeah, the UC San Diego study. So we were doing an event in San Diego, and the university is right there. So we were taking participants, bringing them up to the fMRI lab, and we were getting a baseline. We had, put them in the fMRI machine, and we kind of looked at their brains before they started the event, and then we put them in a 7-day immersive experience of change and transformation. And at the end of the 7 days, we wanted to see how much their brains changed. And we had no idea that we would see these kind of dramatic changes in 7 days, which is really insane. But the default mode network in the brain's predictor. It's always trying to predict the future based on the past. And it's not like, a great example of a predictive model is if I throw a ball, you don't react to it, you just predict where it's going to go, right? And that's how we live our life. Yeah. The brain is predicting just like that. It's a prediction machine. It's an anticipation machine. And when it's really busy trying to anticipate the future based on the past, it consumes an enormous amount of brain energy. Like it really consumes almost all the brain's energy, right? Because we have to be able to predict the next moment creates safety, right? And when you feel safe, then, right, you can relax. So it turns out that most people's default modes are on high gear. That's the voice and the chatter in their head that's always trying to get away from, whatever, something important to them. So the default mode network and the salience network, which are two important networks in the brain, by the end of 7 days in both novice and advanced meditators, were completely dialed down. And there's an enormous amount of energy left in the brain, right? Because if it's consuming that amount, it could be used for other things. The degree of change that took place in default mode network looks just like a person who's on psilocybin. Because psilocybin actually shuts the default mode network off in the brain. Okay. But the participants were doing that without taking any exogenous substances. In other words, by wrestling for the present moment and being uncompromising and working with catching themselves thinking certain thoughts, catching themselves feeling aroused and impatient and settling the body down and working like that, and catching themselves going to a predictable future and bringing themselves back to the present moment. The act of doing that sooner or later dialed that whole system way, way down to such a degree that the person looked like they were taking an exogenous substance.
This is what I love about the work you're doing and the research backing it. Because what I have here in front of me says that these brain scans from your retreats are now showing the same neural activity previously only documented with people taking these types of psychedelics.
Yes.
And so what is meditation actually doing to the brain that we previously didn't know that is making it feel like it's on psychedelics?
Yeah. Well, we're super interested in that principle because we're seeing more and more people reach certain brainwave states where they have a transcendental experience. In other words, we're perceiving less than 1% of reality. We're basically looking at the rainbow, red, orange, yellow, blue, green, indigo, violet, the spectrum of light, visible light, and the whole electromagnetic spectrum. That's the only thing that we're perceiving that's bouncing off the most stable form of energy called matter, right? Fooling us into this kind of illusion of this simulation, right?
This 3D world.
Right, this 3D world. So there's probably more information in the immaterial than there is in the material.
Right.
And the probability then that we're perceiving the truth of reality is zero. It's zero because our brain is not molded. It's not shaped. It's not, the circuits are not there to perceive anything else but the material world. And if you're living for generations untold in survival, when your hormones of stress and survival are switched on, we become materialists and we now are focused on the cause. So if you're looking for food, or if you're facing off with a predator, you got to run from one point to another point, all of your attention is on matter. So through generations, the brain has kind of edited out energy and frequency other than that frequency band of light, right? So when people have these transcendental experiences, they're seeing beyond the veil of that very small percentage of reality and seeing more of the reality that exists that's in the immaterial than in the material, beyond our senses, right?
Before you go on there, for someone watching or listening right now who just thinks, come on, Dr. Joe, this is a little too much for me. Like, we live in the material world. I've got to go from point A to point B. It's taken me a decade to get to this stage in my career. You know, breakdowns happen, bad things happen. Like, we're all victims here. We're all victims to life circumstances, to the government, to our boss, to our spouse. Is there really something else than matter?
Well, I think people who do psychedelics, I just don't believe you have to do psychedelics to have that experience.
For me, I have felt the healing power of allowing my heart to calm itself down and my mind to be in coherence with my heart, the way you teach it in your retreats, and how it allows me to have more creative energy, more energy to be graceful and compassionate towards people than when maybe I used to be resistant and frustrated and angry, more capacity to respond differently. It doesn't mean I'm perfect all the time. I'm still a driven human being, but it's like, it allows me to think a lot better.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. But what happens when the surgery didn't work and the chemo didn't work and the radiation didn't work and the ketogenic diet didn't work and the vegan, gluten-free, organic diet, raw diet didn't work and all the other things didn't
still
work.
Have complications.
Yeah. Because chronic health conditions require a lifestyle change. And nothing changes in our life until we change, right? So the person who's going to make a different choice and begin to do different things and create different experiences and feel different emotions and change the way they think and believe, those are the ones that on a more probable than not basis are going to heal and change. And what our data shows, that if you decide to make a change and immerse yourself in it for full on for 7 days, I could say this is what our data says. I'm not saying this.
That's what the research scientists say.
Research says your nervous system can manufacture a pharmacy of chemicals that works 3 times better than any drug. That's what our data shows.
Wow. 3 times?
Yeah. So a great drug trial, right? A great drug study is about between 18 and 25%. Every now and then you get a drug where it's 30%, but 25 is a good measure. 1 out of 4 people.
Where it works, it's effective
Right.
30% of the time.
Yeah, 1 out of 4 people. Just make it simple.
Okay.
So in our 7-day events, at the end of 7 days, just take this as an example. Everybody has their own genotype, and genes make proteins. Your genotype's different than mine based on our culture, based on our ancestors, all of that. Race, countries. But if genes make proteins and proteins are responsible for the structure and function of your body, at the end of 7 days, when we look at everybody with their own individual genotypes, at the end of 7 days, 80% of the population is expressing the same genes and making the same proteins. What does that mean? 80%. That means the flock, the tribe, the herd. There's an emergent consciousness that's happening when people think differently, when they act differently, and they feel differently. That's literally being reflected in their biology. 80%. If we do a study on advanced meditators and we take their plasma and we put it in the presence of different cancer cells, 84% of the people that are advanced meditators have factors in their blood that stop cancer from multiplying and moving. That's a very high percentage. It takes 70% of the mitochondrial function out of the cell. If we do a study on pain, right? 63 different diseases people come to our workshops for, 63 different chronic health conditions. What we see, it's unanimous across the board. At the end of 7 days, their pain levels are gone or diminished quite a bit, independent of their disease, and they have more energy, right? They have less fatigue. So we said, okay, so what does that mean if they're having less pain, whether they have anxiety, depression, PTSD, cancer, MS, lupus, Parkinson's, doesn't matter. One intervention, not like there's no one drug that works for all those, takes pain away for all those different diseases. One intervention is taking away pain in 63 different diseases. So we're sitting around talking with the scientists, and the next question is it possible? Is it possible, independent of their health condition, that they're manufacturing their own endogenous opioids, their own natural pharmacy of morphines, their own natural pharmacy of pain relievers? Okay, now take a guess of what the percentage was. Remember, drug studies, 25%.
So of how many people coming after 7 days are creating
their own endogenous opioids,
so
their own natural
their own
pharmacy of anti-pain chemicals.
What's the percentage? I don't know, 70, 80%, 90?
100%.
So
100% of the people, right?
So 100% of the people coming in after 7 days of meditation.
Yeah, the 100% of the people that we measured, then they all were, in fact, one particular endogenous opioid called dynorphin was at such high quantities that we had to dilute the substance to be able to measure it, because that's the intelligence of the body. So when I say the nervous system can manufacture a pharmacy of chemicals that works 3 times better than any drug, at our very least 3 times better would be 75%, right? Mm-hmm. But when we look at our community, it's when we're measuring different things, different factors, it's 80%, it's 84%, it's 95%, it's 100%, right? So the probability of that happening to you is very high. And we're not studying people that have been dedicating 40 years of their life to meditation or prayer. These are people that we've finally, through all of our research, figured out a formula. And if you could follow that formula, you'll notice that you'll start changing, right? And that's the important point.
I mean, this whole concept of the internal pharmacy to create pain relief, again, you're talking about the research that's revealed that the body has what you call this internal pharmacy. If someone has been on medication to minimize their pain or just manage their pain that they've had for years, or they have to take medication in order to have a sense of relief of the pain they're feeling in their body, what does someone need to do to activate their internal pharmacy without pain medication, external medication? Like, what does someone need to do at home to activate their internal pharmacy to create pain relief right now?
Yeah.
If they don't have 7 days.
Let me say this, that I would never tell a person to come off their pain medication. What typically happens for most people is they feel so good that they realize they don't need it anymore.
They forget to take it. Yeah.
They forget to take it, or they just outgrow it. They have something, like we hear testimonial after testimonial. A lot of people say just something switched on. Like I just felt something, like I came back online, like I switched on. So first of all, the first step, of course, is that we've been programmed into something else. We've not been programmed into the understanding that your body has the innate capacity to produce the pharmacology of chemicals that could heal you, right? It's not in our belief system. We've been conditioned into believing if you take some exogenous substance and the moment you take it and it takes away your pain, the moment you notice that that pain goes away, you remember what caused it. So the next time you feel that discomfort, the next time you feel that pain, your brain automatically craves that image to take away the pain. And so we become dependent on certain things.
We've also, tons of research of a placebo effect of people taking a sugar pill or some other neutral tablet for pain relief and it giving them that relief at the same time, even though it had none of the chemicals that were supposed to give that relief, correct?
No, this is 100% true. In fact, I wrote a book about it. and
you are the placebo.
Right. And it's I was so mad at myself for so long, because if you think about it, how can you give someone a sugar pill, a saline injection, or perform some false sham surgery or procedure? And a certain percentage of those people will accept, believe, and surrender to the thought without any analysis that they're actually getting the real substance or treatment, and they begin to program their autonomic nervous system to manufacture a pharmacy of chemicals equal to the substance they think they're taking. So was it the inert substance that was healing them, or were they healing by thought alone? So my thing is, why do you need a placebo? If you understand the mechanisms of how that occurs, can you teach people actually how to do that on command? And the answer is yes. We've done research where we've taken people, they have no idea what the name of the gene, they could barely pronounce it. We show them the picture of these quaternary structures of these proteins that these genes make. Their critical analytical thinking mind has no idea how many amino acids are made of, what the sequence of the amino acids are, has no idea the atomic weight, the structure. All they need is the name. If we get them in the right state of mind, in the right state of body, and the door between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is wide open to information, would their intention to regulate that gene, to make that protein, could they use intention, and could intention serve as information to actually signal that gene? Okay, you ready? 100% of the people in the first study, okay? In the second study, it was about 95%. Wow. They regulated the gene.
Just from thought alone.
By thought alone. So now think about this.
Not taking a pill, not taking medicine,
right. So this is not for everybody. So for a person who really wants to understand this, there's a lot of learning that has to go on. And that's what we did with our paper. We wanted to make sure, and this is what I do with my workshops. I want to challenge your current beliefs, and you got to reconceptualize certain things again, because it's so much easier to forget it than to remember it, right? So it takes constant review and rehearsal and thinking about it. And that's what we do. We teach people information. They got to teach it back to the person next to them. They got to get it wired in their brain. They got to understand the what and the why. So the how is instrumental, right? So they can assign meaning behind the act. So a person who truly wants to heal and change, and by the way, we've had so many people in the last 5 years never even make it to a week-long event. Just grab a book and read it, or do the online course, do the meditations, and, show up and not have Parkinson's disease, or show up and not have cancer anymore, or show up and not have a certain health condition, or become abundant, or whatever it was. So people are teaching themselves how to do it, but I would never, ever, ever ask a person to step into the experience without the knowledge first. I really think knowledge is the forerunner, right? And the more knowledge that we have and understand, the more we can assign meaning when it comes to doing something with it. So if a person really says, you know what? I saw the data. Like if he's saying that, I went and looked up the article, and it looks like they're actually making their own pharmacy of chemicals. If there are other people are doing it, of all ages, of all races, of all sizes and shapes and cultures, all diets, I can do it too, right? And that's how new consciousness is reflected in the collective, right? So a person who really wants to do this, they just need the knowledge and the information and the curiosity. Yeah. We study the language of transformation, and curiosity is the big one. When you come in curious, I'm curious. And then curiosity leads to the challenge, right? Because now once you got it up there, now the challenge is that somehow you got to change. And really, nobody changes unless they're challenged, right? I mean, that's the way it is. So then there's the challenge of the wrestling of their old belief and the new belief. This is how change happens. And
It's painful.
It's painful. It's uncomfortable. It's painful. It takes a lot to get out of those programs, to disinvest out of those programs. Takes energy and awareness. But the act of doing it enough times then all of a sudden causes the person really to no longer believe in that and start to believe in something else. Now, if you're constantly revising the model, experience is the greatest professor. Keep asking the person to go into the experience, have the experience, learn from the experience, evolve your experience, and over time, you start feeling better. Now, we didn't say, go make your own endogenous opioids. That was just the side effect of a person no longer tormenting themselves
Living
by
in the past.
complaining and blaming and feeling pain and feeling suffering. The body was relieved. The pain is the past, right? The body's out of the past, and now it's liberated. It's free, right?
Can the body be in pain thinking about the future?
It does it all the time. I mean, when you're in stress, what do? Always we go to the worst case scenario. We always go to the worst case scenario because if you can prepare for the worst, if anything less happens, you have a better chance of living and surviving, right? And it's all about staying alive.
So I've heard you say, a lot of the pain comes from the memory of the past and holding on to that memory of who hurt you or what went wrong or the shame you had around something you did to someone else, whatever it might be, or that accident I had or whatever it might be. But it's also pain is caused by thinking about the unknown of the future.
Oh, absolutely. You could think about some worst case scenario and fixate on that stream of consciousness to such a degree that your inner world becomes more real than your outer world, whatever that worst case scenario is, and you'll actually feel the emotion of that future before it happens. You feel the anxiety, you feel the fear, you feel the worry, and the body's getting a rush of adrenaline, it's getting agitated, and you're conditioning the body to become the mind of fear. And that's how people have panic attacks. Do it enough times, it's so conditioned the body will have a panic attack without your conscious mind. Try as you may to control it with your conscious mind. You can't. You programmed it subconsciously, right? And so many people wind up suffering about and imagining a life that never really happens, but they're living it every day until something finally does happen, right?
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoy this and you want more inspirational content, make sure to click the subscribe button below and click right here to watch what's coming next.